I don't be friends with a school slut. I was like, oh, you ate that. If you watched Degrassi growing up, this video is for you, okay? And if you want to hear about the tea about the Degrassi, the next generation, then stick around because we're going to get into it today, okay? Let's start the video. Whatever it takes, I know I can make it through. Degrassi, the next generation. So many storylines come to mind. The online predator episode, which was the premiere episode, right? The Manuela Santos moment, thong moment, you feel me? Paige and Manny fighting moments. Craig and his dad's abusive storyline. Marco telling Spinner that he's gay. One thing about Degrassi, they took it there every season and every episode. Degrassi is one of the best, if not the best, coming of age TV series. It's a big statement, but it's true. If you watch Degrassi, the Next Generation, you will agree with me. I don't know about y'all, but the way I was introduced to Degrassi, I actually started watching it at my cousin's house. So whenever we used to go to my cousin's house, we used to go in the basement and watch Degrassi, the Next Generation. When I tell y'all, think of early 2000s TV display. Not even display, but like the grainy type of feel. Very old, very early 2000s-esque. One of the things that made me really lock in with Degrassi, the Next Generation, the characters. I felt like I was watching kids my age. Keep in mind, yeah, I was not the age of those Degrassi characters. I felt like I was watching the upperclassmen. I was getting the tea, the scoop. So that really made me lock in like, okay, what y'all talking about? Is this the locker room talk? Okay, let me tap in. I felt like I was being put on to things. As a kid, you definitely don't have just the knowledge or just the understanding that TV is very dramatized. So in my head, I thought I was getting gems for when I went to middle school and high school. Which I wasn't, but I low-key was, but not in that extent. So Degrassi touched on topics that weren't regular at the dinner table. You get me? You get me? Especially for kids that age. So if you grew up in the household I grew up in, right? My mom definitely shielded me from negative things. In her mind, she didn't want my brain to be polluted with the horrors of what life can be for people or just like sensitive topics, which I get it because you want to shelter your kid. Degrassi was like, no, we're gonna expose you, okay? And that's what Degrassi did. Not in a romanticized lens, because I do think at the end of the day, once you finish an episode, you definitely stood back like, damn, yo, could this really happen? And it could. Like, it's actually insane. For those who've never watched Degrassi, the Next Generation, I'm just gonna give y'all a little background so we can move forward with the plot of the video. So Degrassi, the Next Generation, it honestly was a spin-off for Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High. If you never watched those series, it came out in the 80s. It followed core characters that appeared in Degrassi, the Next Generation. So we had Caitlin, Joey, Spike, Spinner.
So it's actually insane. I was halfway through making the video and I didn't even realize that I was referring to Archie as Spinner, bro. I was like, what is this? So y'all gonna have to just keep in mind until we get to the part where I realize I'm calling Archie Spinner child. All right, let's continue.
Those are the four you have to worry about. But yeah, Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High, those shows laid the groundwork for a spinoff. Spike had her daughter, Emma Nelson, who became one of the main characters in Degrassi, the Next Generation. That's just a little 411. Not for nothing, Degrassi High and Degrassi Junior High, I actually watched it. They were actually like good shows. Just like Degrassi, the Next Generation, they definitely hit on topics that were definitely taboo in America at the time. Degrassi is a Canadian television series. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, for this video, we're not gonna focus on the rebrand of Shark in the Water. That was a different Degrassi feel. We're gonna focus on seasons 1 through 8, I believe. Let me check. Oh, wait, no, no. Seasons 1 through seasons 9, okay? Fair warning, this video will be funny, but I definitely will have a more like serious kind of tone because Degrassi touched on real you feel me? Let's get into Degrassi characters and their storylines, okay? So we had Emma Nelson. As I said in the beginning of the video, Emma was born from Spike, who appeared in Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High. Spike had Emma when she was in middle school, child. Well, not even high school, middle school, child. So it's actually insane. What a 13-year-old having sex for, but you know what? But at the end of the day, Spike definitely provided for her child, right? And you see that Emma, you know, she survived. You know, she in the house. So she doing well. So from the beginning, when Emma popped onto our screens, Degrassi tackled the topic of online predatory. So that was Emma's first introduction to us as a teen. You see, from the first episode, she was chatting with this man online. Let me not say man. So Emma thought he was a boy, right? A 13-year-old boy that was chatting with her, child. Basically, the boy was like, let's meet up. Emma lied to her mom, but thank God she told her friends. So Emma goes to see the guy, child. I mean the boy, who turned out to be the guy. It was on some, she goes to the hotel lobby, the guy sees her there, and he's like, oh, are you here for Jordan? And she's like, yeah, I am. He's like, oh, Jordan's upstairs in the hotel room. Emma, at first, she feels the weird vibe, but she was like, nah, that couldn't be it. She gets into the hotel room, Jordan wasn't there, child. And this man definitely was trying her. And to definitely watch that episode, you were like, what is going on? And you were praying. You were praying that Emma's family got to her in time, which they did, child. The friends went to the mom, snitched, thank God they snitched. So Spike and Spinner ended up coming to the hotel and saving Emma. Spinner put that guy to the wall. He was like, move, I crack your neck. So thank God Emma was saved. But that's what I'm talking about. Like from the very first episode, Degrassi was like, we gonna talk about it. Because even at that time, the internet was definitely evolving and there were chat rooms. Like think about it. Were you ever one of those kids that was on chat rooms talking to random people? Granted, I was, but I never met anyone in person. But I was definitely in, you know, like Pillsbury, Vantage, like those online games. You definitely could play games and chat with people. But they were definitely online predators on those apps looking for these kids. And yeah, so Degrassi definitely tackled that from the first episode. I was like, wow, like this is crazy. So we had that first storyline with Emma. Just as her character evolved, there were other things that she was exposed to. For example, right? Remember I said she was conceived in a teenage pregnancy? Later on in the series, we find out who her dad is. Damn, what was his name? Archie, not Spinner. Oh my gosh. I've been saying Spinner. I meant Archie. Snake. Archie Snake. But yeah, later on in the series, we find out who Emma's real father is, right? I mean, we knew who he was from Degrassi High, Degrassi Junior High, but we never saw him in Degrassi The Next Generation because he wasn't really a topic. But then Emma was like, where's my dad? Child. His name is Shane. He was in a facility because he was in a bad accident during high school. So that left him, he was a little delayed, unfortunately, you know? So again, those type of topics, like finding your real dad and it turns out like, you know, mentally just a little delayed. It's just because of a car accident. It was crazy. It was crazy. And then even then, oh my gosh, she was almost the victim of a school shooting. We're gonna get into that character later. Emma experienced a lot of trauma. Granted, she was the main character of Degrassi The Next Generation, but Emma seen a lot. Let's get into Manuela Santos. When Manny first came onto the scene, she's Emma's best friend. She's very sheltered, very baby-like. You know, her parents, I think they were immigrants. You know, I said Emma been through a lot. Manny been through a lot too, child. I don't even know if y'all remember this. There wasn't one episode in particular, Waiting to Happen, Expecting to Waiting. I don't know, I'm gonna insert the name. It was banned from being aired on TV. And that was the teenage pregnancy episode. So Manny experienced teenage pregnancy when she was messing with Craig Manning. We're gonna get into that character later, child. But in that episode, Manny, you know, after fooling around with Craig as the mistress, she ended up getting pregnant. And Manny was like, what? She realized, honestly, she can't raise a baby. You know, she finally told her mom. Her mom took her to the clinic. You know, she had an abortion, child. I don't even think she was in the high school part at that time. I think she was still in junior high. I think she was like 13, 14. Yo, to experience an abortion at such a young age, like that's scarring. That was one of the, saddest storylines for Manny, child. Oh, another Manny storyline was when her nudes were released by this trash character. I don't even say his name because whatever. Yeah, so like her nudes were released in front of the school and that was crazy. And that's something you actually do see in middle school and high school. It's actually insane. Revenge porn because you're mad that she didn't want you, like trash. But what I will say, if anything, I wish Degrassi would have shown like how to tackle that. Not on some like, in the face of like embarrassment, you could definitely rise up. I would want to see some legal actions. He definitely could have been arrested for releasing her nudes. And that should have happened, but that's neither here nor there. So the next character, we're gonna get into Craig Manning. If there's one Degrassi character that did not get a break from trauma, it's Craig Manning. The producers saw that Jake Epstein could act and they were like, oh, we're gonna keep on giving you strife, guilt, trauma, mental health problems. Like, we're gonna give that to you. So yeah, Craig Manning never saw a day of peace. From the beginning when he came in season 2, his dad was beating him up. Like beating him up. His dad, I think he was like a doctor, a surgeon. Don't know what type of surgeon, but yeah. Craig's storyline, even from the beginning, like the way he came into the scene. Y'all remember Joey? I said he was a character in Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High. So Joey reappeared in Degrassi The Next Generation, right? Joey married Craig's mom after Craig's mom divorced Craig's dad. She left that man. I think he was abusive to her, but I don't know. Not confirmed. But anywho's, she ended up remarrying Joey. All right, and then after remarrying Joey, she had a kid, Angie. So Angie was Craig's half sister, right? Unfortunately, Craig's mom passed away. With that, Craig was like, honestly, I do want to have a relationship with my half sister. But Craig's dad, he was so damn bitter. He did not want Craig acknowledging that family. But Craig was like, nah, that's my sister. But Craig's dad was like, no. And he just beat that kid. Like beat him. Whenever Craig got into contact with Joey Jeremiah and Angie, he just beat up Craig. It's messed up. So that was one of the first storylines we saw of Craig, right? And then even after that, Craig ended up moving out of his dad's house to go with Joey. His dad ended up dying. We saw death. It was so interesting, even with that storyline, how to grieve for someone that inflicted harm upon you. And that's what Craig battled with when his father died. Kudos to Degrassi for tackling that topic. You saw Craig really have that guilt, like, damn, like, why am I sad over a man that abused me? You're sad because you loved him. Yes, he did inflict abuse on you, you know. Yes, he was actually a narcissist and a horrible man, but he was your father. And then, remember I told you, Craig doesn't have any, you know, relief from trauma. So another topic, child, when he got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, child. Oh my gosh. He sold his guitar. He was gonna move to Paris. He ended up beating Joey up. Then he was on the streets. It was crazy. Here's the thing. So when TV shows try to tackle psychiatric illnesses, mental disorders, it's very dramatized because mania looks different for everyone. Depressed episodes look different for everyone. So it's very like, okay, I see the direction. But what I will say, Degrassi did what they could with that storyline, and I do think it was effective. Mental health definitely affects the whole family. It affects the person, but it also affects the loved ones around them because you're trying to support them. But if it's your first exposure to what that may look like, it's like, what the hell do I do? You know, Craig's family was at a loss of words, like, oh my gosh, I can't help this kid. But you know, it's a TV show, so they figured it out. But yeah, Craig really had no peace. So another character we're going to talk about is Paige Michaelchuk, the it girls of all it girls. Paige was the mean girl of Degrassi. I love Paige, but she was a Granted, Paige definitely grew and then regressed, grew, regressed, grew, regressed. But when she first came onto the scene, she was actually like a mean girl. And we saw this early on in the season when Ashley, another character, she threw a party at her house. Ashley took ecstasy, I believe, and she kind of said things that she shouldn't have at the party, and she did things that she shouldn't have. That turned into Ashley being ostracized from her friend group, and Paige was the main person. Like, she was just so mean to her. It came to a point where Ashley became gothic. Like, she cut her hair, dyed her hair black, like all black clothes, just looking back now, that could have drove Ashley to honestly like just take her life. Like, that's how crazy it was. And Paige would not let up. Like, she would just continuously be mean to Ashley, and it was really annoying. But yeah, Paige was a mean girl, and she continued being a mean girl until she was sexually assaulted at a party. Background on that episode, Paige went to this party because she liked the soccer player. He invited her. She just wanted to vibe because, you know, at that age, 13, 14, 15, you're just like, yeah, I want to be in the presence of like a cute guy. This guy ended up taking advantage of her. And after the assault, that bathroom scene when Hazel is talking to Paige, yes, very dramatic, but Paige is like, I said no, like, I don't know why he did it. And Hazel's like, girl, you were raped. To say those words, notice how I didn't say rape, I was saying sexually assaulted. Degrassi was that one show that named it for what it was, rape. And then Ashley became someone that helped Paige really process her trauma. She did that through music. And I love this episode. Paige basically sings to her rapist. You took my heart and tore it apart. Paige took her power back on that stage, and I will say that was a powerful scene. You could see the rapist in the audience just mad. Like, yeah, you did this, but I'm good. And keep in mind, this storyline actually traveled throughout seasons because it's trauma that just comes back up. you know, it's not something that you just put away. But another storyline with Paige, right? For majority of her life, she was straight. Ciao. Paige started questioning her sexuality, which, you know, you're young, live your life. She started dating Alex. Oh my gosh. Alex is not usually her type, you know. Alex was a girl, and Alex, she was rough around the edges, you know. Alex definitely had to come up, but regardless, that whole relationship threw us all for a loop, but it was cute. I think they dated senior year into college, and they continued dating, and then something happened with Alex. Alex became like a go-go dancer. Oh my gosh, too much storylines. But yeah, there goes Degrassi tackling a topic of sexuality, right? For someone who, for all intents and purposes, grew up being in just like a hetero sexual mindset. And then all of a sudden she starts questioning her sexuality, and then she doesn't label herself, you know? Like when she began the relationship with Alex, she didn't say what sexuality she was. She was like, I just like her, and that's what it is. So like, yeah, Degrassi, ahead of its time. For this next one, I'm just gonna focus on the theme of death and grief. Degrassi was that one show that definitely introduced preteens to death. They had storylines where you saw a character that was loved and they met an unfortunate demise. So let's just break this down. So Jimmy Brooks, aka Drake, he was like the black rich kid, you know, that had everything. His best friend Spinner was jealous of him, and he was the popular kid. He had plug, so he kind of used that to his advantage. He was mean sometimes, but his best friend Spinner, he was worse. He took bullying to a different level, and with Jimmy, like, he waxed and weaned on her. He was for the shenanigans, and when it got too far, he was like, nah, Spinner, you're doing too much. So Jimmy ended up being on this like mathletes, science, whatever, decathlon type of group at his school. And there was this kid named Rick. If you watch Degrassi, you know where I'm going with this. Rick, he was bullied. Granted, I get why people bullied him. He abused a beloved friend of everyone at the school, Terry, to the point where he pushed her, which led to her falling, her head hitting a rock, and she was put in a coma. And then Terry never came back to Degrassi. So everyone remembers that. And they were like, Rick, you're not welcome back. And not for nothing, I don't know why his parents let him re-enroll into that school. But anywho's, Rick was bullied like really badly. And Spinner and Jay, another character, they were the main culprits. They just did too much. And Jimmy used to do it too, but not the physical, but the verbal sparring with him. Jimmy did that. But once he joined the math science type club, he saw that the bullying is getting old. You're a person, it seems like you've changed, so I'm gonna try to like meet you where you are and let's see where this goes. Unfortunately, Spinner did not get the memo, and long story short, Spinner and Jay ended up pouring paint on Rick at this big competition and embarrassed him in front of the whole school. As a result, there was a school shooting, and Jimmy was one of the victims, and Jimmy was put in a wheelchair. So I say this all to say, there were so many times where you see Rick is being bullied. He's asking for help. I'm not saying Rick was right with what he did, because he's not. But there were so many times that Rick was going to the principal like, hey, this is happening. And the principal like, yeah, you need to suck it up. Like, you're fine. Just deal with it. Rick definitely mentally was not in the right place. Even his first assault with Terry, like, something was wrong. You know, he should have never been allowed into the school again. Just the lead up to the school shooting, how each character played a part, and then the one person that actually humanized him, you know, and started being a friend to him, he got screwed over. Because Spinner put the blame on Jimmy. Rick heard that and targeted Jimmy. Not many TV shows really tackle school shootings in such a way that has the audience really thinking like, damn, how do I play a part in like someone's bullying? What can I do? And then also it's like, wait, Rick wasn't mentally well. Why was he even allowed in the school? Like, there was so much like nuance to that conversation that the storyline really started. Very few TV shows tackle school shootings in a way that's not like ewy. One Tree Hill is one of them. We're gonna get to One Tree Hill in another episode, but One Tree Hill and Degrassi, those two school shooting episodes, definitely like, they are episodes you walk away with just thinking. And then another storyline, and this is gonna be the last one, JT York. The stabbing of JT York, I should say. When his death happened, it left you speechless. Basically, the two schools were beefing, Lakers and Degrassi. And with them beefing, it just became like a war. It was like a turf war. I'm from Brooklyn, so like that's a reality, you know? High school beefs happen. Kids really, they do things out of just pure reaction and they don't think twice. And unfortunately, JT was on the end of not thinking twice. That was some sad stuff. Keep in mind, JT was there from the beginning of Degrassi The Next Generation. He was the core group. Emma, Manny, Toby, him, and Liberty. Liberty wasn't the core, but you know, I'm gonna include her. From the beginning, he was the little brother that annoyed everyone. And for him to be the first death, it definitely shifted the tone of Degrassi. It was like, oh, we're doing this. I said a lot. I said a whole lot. Degrassi was really one of those shows that just created a conversation for topics that may have been hard for parents to speak to their kids about. You don't want to expose your kids to topics that they may never come across, but you don't know. Like, nothing in this life is guaranteed. So I definitely think Degrassi just opened up a dialogue that was needed. I stand by my earlier statement. Degrassi is one of the best coming of age TV series. I could do a YouTube series on Degrassi because that's how good of a series it was. And there's so many conversations you could have about Degrassi, right? But I'm choosing to talk about coming of age TV series, it being the best, or one of the best. If you watched Degrassi growing up and you definitely feel what I'm feeling about the show, comment below, because we actually need to get into it. Like, yeah. All right, y'all. Thank you for watching my YouTube video. I'll see y'all later. You are what I say to you. It was too much for me. I'm a little parched. So Degrassi, thank you. I know I can make it through.